What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be ranking all of the augments in Fortnite Chapter 4 Season 1. So I'm going to be going over each augment, what I think of it, if I think it's good or not, and how I would rank it in a tier list. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to have a tier list fully filled out with where each augment is on the list. So if you guys do enjoy this video, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more. Comment down below which augment is your favorite or which one you think is like the most powerful. And also, before we get into it, like a lot of these augments are incredibly subjective and incredibly dependent on your playstyle. There's some augments that I don't think are very good that you probably like, or some that I think are very good that you don't like. So much of it depends on like the items you like using and how you want to play the game. But this video is just my opinion on it. I don't think there's a few augments that are just like insanely good for anybody, but a lot of it comes down to preference and playstyle. So the first one we're going to talk about is going to be First Assault. This makes it to where the first bullet of your AR deals bonus damage. And this is another augment this is the first augment, but this one could be incredibly subjective dependent on your playstyle. I would put this at B tier. This is an okay benefit, but it really isn't that big of a deal most of the time. This is one of those things that I'll take if there's not really any other choices that I want or that I don't really feel like spending gold, but I'm not really that excited to take this augment. It does stack well with another augment that we'll get to later, and you can have an interesting result. But I feel like for most of the time in public matches, this is just like a C to a B tier augment. In competitive, this would be insanely good at getting Storm Surge, because just eking out that little extra bonus damage out of the first shot can be the difference maker between you being over Surge or under the threshold. But for most of the time in public matches, it's nice, but it's not really going to win you games. The next augment we're going to talk about is going to be Pistol Amp. This is pistols have greatly increased mag size. I'm going to put this at A tier because I really like the tactical pistol for zero build. It is my SMG in zero build. I pretty much just always use Red Eye Assault Rifle, Thunder Shotgun, and the tactical pistol. So having the increased mag size is really nice. It makes it go from 15 to 22 bullets, and that isn't the biggest deal for solos, but in team game modes, it definitely is super important, and it makes the tactical pistol much more viable in team modes than it would be otherwise. For solos, I feel like 15 bullets is more often than not just fine, but the times where you would really notice this or really have it be beneficial to you in solos would be like situations where you're getting third-partied, or if someone's trying to run away from you with the hammer and you're trying to use your pistol to finish them, because the bloom on this pistol really isn't that significant, so you can actually consistently tag people from a decent range with this pistol. So when people are trying to hammer away, I feel like I notice that extra bullets more. But in just like a close range fight where I'm swapping between my shotgun and my pistol, I'm usually going to kill them before 15 bullets happens. But if you end up dealing with multiple people back to back, or you're dealing with team game mode, or you're just dealing with somebody running, the added bullets is really nice. In zero build, I want to have either this or the augment that makes you reload faster with light ammo weapons. One of those two is super important. And this would also be really important if you wanted to use the tactical pistol as like an SMG and AR hybrid weapon. I think you'll see a lot of people doing this in zero build tournaments and then running something like Thunder Shotgun, tactical pistol, bunkers, the hammer, and then heals. If you want to like free up a slot in your inventory to carry some of the more situational items, the tactical pistol can be a really good close range and mid range weapon, and that makes that a little more viable. So I think Pistol Amp is a really good augment. The next one is going to be Light Fingers. This is the one I was just talking about before. Weapons that use light ammo reload faster. I'm going to put this at C tier. I think this is an okay perk, and it's another one of those perks that I'll take it. Like, it doesn't hurt. It's better than some choices. You know, there's some that I just actively don't like, and this is kind of just like it's better than nothing, or it's better than having that thing I don't like. And like I said, in zero build, I kind of want either Pistol Amp or this, either one or the other. Having both isn't the end of the world either, but there are augments that I would prefer than dedicating two to my pistol. But this is a good augment. It's a nice benefit, but it's not going to be a game changer. Kind of like the First Assault one I talked about. There are a lot of augments that are just kind of okay, and this is one of them. Mechanical Archer. This is receive an explosive bow and a shockwave bow. I'm going to put this at B tier. I don't really like the bows, and I don't really like using the bows, but if you like the bows, this is really good. You get a top tier weapon, and the shockwave bow can be really good mobility, and if we end up in a world where the hammer is nerfed significantly or removed from the game, the shockwave bow is going to be our next best form of mobility. So I think this augment is good if you like the bows. If you don't like the bows, it is what it is, or you already have the bows you want to use for the game, then you don't need it. So it is what it is. Demolitions, munitions, this is objects you destroy have a chance to drop explosives. I'm going to put this at C tier. This is another situational augment depending on what you like. If you're running the RPG, which currently isn't in the game, but I think it'll come back, this can be a good source of getting rockets. And then you can also drop grenades by pickaxing cover. So I could see a situation in which like you kind of have somebody camping in a bush or something. You pickaxe the tree you're next to, you get a grenade, you throw it at that bush. Like it could be super helpful in times like that. But it's not really something I'm ever going to intentionally get or go out of my way to get. And once again, it's one of those things where it's better than some of the ones I actively dislike, but it's not really something I ever want to use. The next one is going to be rifle recycle. This is weapons using medium ammo have a chance to not consume ammo. And I'm going to put this at C tier. It's okay. One interesting thing is it can stack with the first assault perk, and then you end up getting multiple first shot bonus damage shots if the timing aligns. I'll have a clip of it here now where I kill this player where I got multiple of the bonus damage shots, and that was pretty cool. But the odds of that happening aren't that great. I think I've had it happen 3 or 4 times this entire chapter. And once again, this is another one of those perks where it's better than the ones I don't like, but its benefit isn't large enough for me to really go out of my way to take it or feel really excited to take it. It's just there. The next one is going to be tactical armory. This grants a rare attack assault rifle and combat shotgun. I'm going to put this at B tier. If you like these weapons, you'll probably put it S tier. I know some people love these items and they think that like the meta is combat shotgun. I personally don't like that. It's not my preferred playstyle. I could see in zero build competitive both of these weapons being super important, because in a competitive squad setting, being able to just like chip people down from range with the combat shotgun would be really nice. And the range of the TAC AR isn't that great. I feel like if you're fighting someone 60 meters away or so, or like past that, then it isn't nearly as good as the red eye assault rifle, because you're hitting for like 14 or 15 damage. It's really weak at range, and with the mobility we have this season, it's really easy for someone to decide you're not shooting them. But in a competitive setting, you get a lot more people in a smaller zone, so I could see the TAC AR just shredding. And then also it uses light ammo, and in competitive, especially squads, which is going to be the zero build cash cup mode, splitting your ammo amongst your teammates, it can be important. So if you have somebody take the TAC AR and then they don't need their medium ammo, and then they can give their medium ammo to one of their teammates, and then just everybody is kind of in a better situation, I could see that being good. But I don't really like the TAC AR as a main assault rifle. I feel like it's very easy for the hammer user to just get out of range from it, and the red eye assault rifle just hits so much harder. It's certainly a fun weapon to use, especially when you're just beaming headshots. Like seeing all the numbers pop up is really satisfying, but it's just so weak, and I think it's really easy for people to get out of its effective range really easily. But like I said, if you like these weapons, this is definitely an S tier augment for you, because it's the only way you can get them. The next augment is going to be rushing reload. This is going to be sprinting will slowly reload your equipped shotgun. I'm going to put this at B tier, I guess, because I'm terrible at reloading. But I've heard, or I've been told, I don't know if this is true or not, that some of the bugs this season, like the sprint bug or the mantle bug, have to do with the augments you take. So if you're taking augments that affect sprint, maybe you increase your chances of getting the sprint bug. So I've played a lot of games this season. I've only gotten the sprint bug once. I haven't gotten the mantle bug ever. I know a lot of people are getting these bugs constantly. So maybe taking these augments is potentially what's causing the problem. I'm not really sure, because like I just said, I'm not getting the bugs anyways. So maybe just so happened that people happen to get it when they had this augment. I'm not sure, but that's something I've seen people saying that I wanted to put out there. But in a world where there's no bugs, I think this is a fine augment. It's nice. You're probably going to be sprinting around a lot using your shotgun, especially in fights around buildings and such, and just having it naturally reload your weapon as you're sprinting can be beneficial. Also, if you're like me, I pretty much only play this game while streaming, so my attention is divided in many different ways, and I often forget to reload. So just having the weapon reload itself would be pretty nice. Also, I think in the future, where we might have different shotguns in the game, this could matter more. Like imagine an augment like this with the Ranger shotgun, and you could shoot your shot, kind of sprint around and be reposition and be slippery, all the while your gun is being reloaded. I could see that being really nice. Same with the Prime shotgun, if that ever comes back, because it had the bonus of fully loaded, dealing extra damage. I could see a perk like this working really well with the shotguns. Or if we end up in a world where like the first assault perk made ARs deal extra damage if they were fully loaded, if they made an augment like that for shotguns, that would pair really well for this. So depending on what like items they add to the game and what augments they add to the game in the future, I could see this rising in priority, but for now, it's not really something I'm that excited to take. It's another one of those augments of like, it's better than nothing. The next augment is going to be more parkour. Your energy regenerates briefly after mantling. I'm going to put this at C tier. Like the previous augment I discussed, where maybe the augments that mess with sprinting causes the sprint bug. I've been avoiding this because I heard that it is causing the mantle bug. Once again, I don't know if that's true or not, because it's hard to prove a negative if you don't get the bug. It's hard to prove that you didn't get the bug because you didn't take those augments. But if these augments are causing the bugs, I've just been avoiding them for that reason. And I feel like this also isn't that great of a benefit. It'll be nice under some circumstances, but it's not really going to change the game too much for you. So I'm just going to put it at C tier. The next one is going to be supercharged. Vehicles you're inside have increased HP and only consume fuel while boosting. I don't really ever use the vehicles, but I'm going to put this at B tier. I don't really mess around with the cars too much. The only time I really use them is if like I'm in a game where I just cannot find anybody or I'm so far from zone, and that rarely happens for whatever reason this season so far. I feel like it's because the map is much smaller, but I think in competitive this would be really nice. Having the cars in zero build comp as mobile cover can be nice, and then also just driving around the map reduces the ability for people to engage on you. So this could be good in comp, but I think they took the cars out of competitive last chapter, so yeah, I think this would be much better in competitive than pubs, and it's not even in, I don't think cars are in competitive, but I don't know because I don't really pay that much attention to competitive. The next one is going to be, I don't have the name of it here, but it's enemies hit by your marksman rifle or bow shots are marked for a brief duration. I'm going to put this at B tier, borderline A tier. If you use either of those items, this perk is insane. So if you are someone who really likes using the DMR or you really like using the bow, being able to shoot it and mark somebody and know exactly where that player is or if they're repositioning can be really helpful. And then also if you're playing team game modes, this is super, super good. Because like if you know that you have that teammate that uses the bow and they have this augment and that whenever they bow somebody and hit them for like 100 or more, they're marked, then everybody in the squad can just focus down that weak player that's marked, and it would make it very easy for you guys to just team shot conveniently. And even the DMR hits pretty hard, so if you have anybody in your squad using this augment with those hard-hitting weapons, I think it makes it really easy to just follow up and knock that player out, and that makes the team game modes infinitely easier. Once you're able to get a knock, it's so much easier to transition that into more knocks because you have a numbers advantage. So I think this is a very, very high tier augment depending on the setup and depending on like kind of the team coordination. It just makes it super easy to coordinate when it's marking the person that just got hit hard. The next one is going to be Bush Warrior. You regenerate health and up to 50 shield in large foliage. I'm going to put this at B tier. I initially didn't think very highly of this because I don't really care for camping in bushes, but you regen HP so fast from this that it isn't that, you don't have to go that far out of your way to make it happen. You know what I mean? It's not like you need to sit in a bush for like 20 seconds to regen HP. Let's say you got into a fight with somebody. You have splashes, but let's say you got into a fight with somebody, you kill them, and then you're like 50 health left. You're pretty weak. You could either use all of your splashes and not even get to max HP probably, or you would get to 170. Or you could sit in the bush, you'll regen your white, you'll regen up to 50 blue, and then you can use 2 splashes and be at 190 and still have 4 splashes remaining. So I think situationally, this perk can be really insane, even if you're not going to camp in bushes. I feel like also in an instance where you know that you're going to have to like make a long trek into zone, you know you're going to take a lot of white and storm essentially, you can just take this perk if you have it pop up, and then when you get into zone, you'll be able to heal in a bush. You can't heal in the storm in a bush, but I just think this perk is actually somewhat convenient, even if you don't intend on camping in bushes. Like I play pretty aggro. I very rarely sit in bushes unless like I'm healing or unless it's just required because there's like no cover in the zone. And even I think this perk is quite good depending on the situation. The next perk is going to be Party Time. Gain balloons over time. This is going to be where a lot of people would disagree with me because I know there's a playstyle which like kind of rates these highly, but I'm going to put this D tier. I don't like the balloons at all. I have never liked the balloons in Fortnite. That playstyle has never really been something I enjoy. I feel like basically the balloon playstyle of just sitting in the sky with balloons and shooting down on people. People use the bows often for this because the bows don't make noise, but you're essentially playing in hopes that your opponent doesn't know that this is a thing. And if your opponent does know this is a thing, it just literally doesn't work. It's very easy to counter this. It's easy to capitalize on chaos with this perk and just sit in the sky. And if you have a really chaotic game, you could just third party people and they don't really know where it's coming from. Or if you're in a game with in a really low skill lobby and the players just don't know about the balloons, then this can be good. But I feel like it's one of those things where it's just like so gimmicky, and it's so short-sighted, because it's not going to work the longer time goes on and the more people are aware of this perk, or as you play and you're getting wins doing this, you're going to get harder lobbies, and then it's not going to work anymore, and you spent that time playing off this like gimmicky playstyle. If you don't care about that and you just think it's funny and fun, that's cool, but like that's not how I play the game, and I don't really care for this perk. I know also people like using this and the shockwave bow and another perk we'll get onto later. That's not my preferred playstyle, but yeah, like the balloons aren't for me. The next one is going to be Aerialist. Gain the ability to redeploy your glider. I'm going to put this at B tier. For now, I would put it at C tier, but I think in the future it has potential to get better. This can be really helpful for traveling around the map and avoiding fall damage, but I feel like there's little reason to take this right now, because the hammer exists and is great mobility, and the shockwave bow exists, and that's really good mobility either. But in a meta where there really isn't that much mobility, or let's say in comp, if they remove the hammer or something like that, then I could see this being really good. I've also seen people saying that you can chain this well with the hammer and then get around faster, but I don't think that's a good idea at all. I've actually gotten kills strictly because of that. I'll play a clip on screen now where this guy hammers and then glides, and I just fry him. Like, it's very easy to shoot people while they're gliding. The hammer animation is very fast, and it can be somewhat difficult for some people to track the person while they're hammering. But if you're mid-hammer animation and then you pull your glider, you're just going much slower. And you might get around faster if you just wanted to travel the map this way. That would be fine. But actually, mobility in a fight, I think this is actively detrimental for you to use as opposed to just your hammer mobility. So, yeah, it can be good, but I think used incorrectly, it can actually be worse. But in the future, where maybe there isn't as many mobility items, I could see this definitely being a top-tier augment. And that's one thing you have to keep in mind with these augments is, like, this stuff is probably here to stay forever. So it will be here for several different metas and several different iterations of the game. The next one is going to be Chug Gunner. You receive a Chug Cannon. I'm going to put this at A tier. I don't really like carrying the Chug Cannon because it takes 2 slots and you have to rearrange your inventory so much. And I just don't think it's worth it, especially with how many heals are on this map. I rarely have a hard time getting Chug Splashes on this map. But one really interesting thing about this is that you can hold it. So if you see this as your augment, you can close your augment selection and then just not take it. And then you basically have a Chug Cannon in your back pocket without consuming any inventory slots, because you could just consume the augment when you actually want it and then use it and then drop it if you don't want to carry it anymore. And that's really interesting. This does prevent you from getting other augments in the meantime. You'll still earn progress on them. So let's say you got this as your first augment, and then you kept it, and then 2 more augments came out. You won't be able to get access to those 2 other augments until you take your Chug Cannon. But once you do take your Chug Cannon, you'll get those other 2 ones right away. So you still unlock them, but you just won't be able to confirm them until after you take the Chug Cannon. So I do think carrying it around like that is interesting. Some people rate the Chug Cannon highly and they just want it all the time, and that's great for them. But I think being able to carry this around as a free Chug Cannon without consuming inventory slots is very busted. You can kind of do the same thing with the Tactical Armory one or the bow one. I just don't think it's like that big of a deal. But with the Chug Cannon, it can be really nice. And if you end up getting this as your 4th augment, that would be like perfect, because then you have a free Chug Cannon whenever you want it, and you're not really missing out on anything. So I think this Chug Cannon one will be insanely good the way I discussed it, especially in competitive. If players are able to get this as their 4th augment and then just have a free Chug Cannon in their back pocket, and they're literally missing out on nothing because they've already had their 3 other augments. The next perk is going to be Tricked Out. Entering a car or truck applies chonkers and a cow catcher to it. I'm just going to put this at C tier. Like the other vehicle perk, I don't really care for the vehicles that much, and I don't really use them that much. Could be useful for some circumstances, but it's just getting around the map is not really something I have a problem with this season, because the map is much smaller and we have the hammer, which is one of the more insane mobility items. The next perk is going to be Forecast. You can always see the next storm circle. This is going to be S tier. I think this perk is insane. I'm very surprised they put this in the game. Just being able to always know where the next zone is going to go gives you so much information. Not only is it really OP endgame, knowing what part of zone to play and what part of zone isn't going to get favored. Like, so much of endgame comes down to just like kind of putting yourself in the best spot to deal with the worst case scenario. And with this perk, you already know what's going to happen, so you don't really have to play around that, and you could just play for what is going to be the best spot because you know it. I feel like if you were going to get like cheats in a battle royale that were kind of hidden, you know, not necessarily like aimbot or invincibility, knowing where the zones are would be huge. Also, seeing like second or third zone can be nice, not necessarily because you need to have the best positioning, but like if you're on the far right side of the map and then first zone you're not quite in it, but you see second zone is on the far left side of that already zone that you're not in, then you can play knowing that you need to actually get further than you do. Whereas like when you don't see that zone in advance, it could be tough to actually know like how much of danger of zone you really are in. But just knowing exactly where the zone is going to be is super busted, I think. So I'm going to put this at S tier. I'm surprised this is in the game, and I'm very surprised this isn't competitive. I would love to see stats. They would never give us this, but I would love to see like stats as far as like what percentage of players taking a certain augment ends up winning the game, because I feel like most games are probably won by somebody who has forecasted. It is just that good. The next augment is going to be Storm Mark, and this is when the storm changes, you get a ping and it highlights enemies around you. This is going to be another S tier augment. I think this and Forecast are the two best augments, and if you have them both in game, you have a just ridiculous advantage. You know where zone is going to be, and you know where everybody is, and you get this ping every zone, so it's useful at all times. Anybody that might be hiding around you to try to get a drop on you just automatically pings when zone closes, and this is every time storm updates. So anytime zone starts moving, or it reaches its destination and it's in that waiting period, you get a ping each time. So anytime the clock hits 0, essentially, on Storm, you get a ping. And this is just really good. It's especially good in-game, but it's always good. So I think Storm Mark is OP, and I think Forecast is OP. And like I said, I'm very surprised that either of these are in competitive. The next perk is going to be Soaring Sprints. This is going to be another one that a lot of people will disagree with me on, but I hate this perk. I'm going to put it D tier. I know there is the playstyle of this and the bows, and a lot of people rate that highly, but I've had a lot of times where like I accidentally took this perk early on, and then when trying to sprint and like jump while getting away from somebody, you end up jumping and you're much slower. Kind of like how I talked about before with the glider redeploy one and the hammer. If you're sprinting and jumping, you carry that momentum through, but when you do the zero gravity jump, you're really slow. I'll have a clip of me beaming somebody because of it right now. And yeah, I've had a lot of times where I beam somebody or get so many extra shots in on them because they did the soaring sprint jump than I would have if they just had a normal jump. And I've had the same happen to me. So I don't like this perk at all. And this is when I was talking before about like, oh yeah, this perk is better than something I don't want. I was mainly talking about this and like the vehicle perks or like the ones that are sprinting and mantling that I'm avoiding right now. So yeah, I don't like this perk. I think you make yourself an easier target. If you really like the bow style, the bow play style of using this, I think people use like this and the shockwave bow and then maybe balloons at the same time. You go really far, and if that's something you like, that's something you like, but that's not how I play the game. And that's kind of what I talked about at the start of the video. You know, a lot of this depends on your playstyle. The next one is going to be Splash Medic. You have the chance to get chug splashes in every chest you open. I'm going to put this at A tier. Borderline S tier, though. If you guys have watched my videos for a while, you know I think chug splashes are the best healing item in the game most of the time. And this makes it to where you can get more chug splashes. When you open a chest, every chest you open has potential to drop an extra chug splash in addition to whatever was there. So it's not that chug splashes take the healing slot. It's just that you get an extra item potentially out of every chest. And that is really good. But you only get one chug splash, and that can be nice to top you off. But I also just don't have that hard of a time finding splashes on this map. There's a lot of coolers around this map, and it is somewhat small. But this is a perk that I am happy to take. If this comes up, I'm happy to take it. My top 3 probably would be this, Forecast, Storm Mark. And then I don't know what the other one would be. Maybe like the pistol one if I'm playing 0 builds, or maybe the light ammo one if I'm playing builds. But yeah, this is a very good perk. I think very highly of it. More chug splashes are nice, even though it isn't that hard to get chug splashes on this map. It's really nice in a pinch, or if you just need to top off after like taking a little bit of damage. The next perk is going to be Jelly Angler. You receive a fishing rod, and then with that fishing rod, you get jellyfish every time you fish, whether or not you fish a fishing spot. This is going to be C tier. It doesn't really change how I play the game. I pretty much never take this, and if I do, I don't take the fishing rod. If you are in a weird situation where maybe you went to land somewhere, but your drop wasn't great, so you had to land at like a subpar spot, and then there happens to be water there, or like you got shot and you're weak and you have no heals, and you happen to get this augment when you happen to be near a body of water, it'll definitely be really good in that situation. But you can only carry 3 jellies, so it's not like I'm going to take them instead of chug splashes. If you could carry 6, maybe I would consider it. And then they also did nerf this perk. It initially gave you 2 jellies, and now it only gives you 1. So yeah, I don't think too highly of this. I don't really go out of my way to get it, and I never really have used it. I think there's been one time where I used it, and it was a situation like I discussed where like my drop ended up just being bad, and then I kind of had to be shambles for a little bit. So I don't think too highly of this perk. It's okay, but yeah. But that is going to be it for the augments. This is going to be the filled out tier list of where I would rank every augment. I think the augment system is interesting, but they're very poorly balanced right now. There's a few that are just insane, like Storm Mark and Forecast. And then most of them are just situational or like kind of like nice benefits to have. Like the sprint shotgun, sure, like I'll take that. Or like the mantling gives you more energy. It doesn't hurt unless those are what are causing the bugs. But a lot of them are like very small benefits that aren't really going to change the game. And then some of them are ridiculous benefits like Forecast and Storm Mark that definitely are going to have an impact on the game and are definitely going to make it much easier to play endgame. So I feel like they're pretty poorly balanced right now. We might see a world in which some augments are buffed or nerfed over time, removed from the game potentially. I mean, we already have seen one nerfed in Jelly Angler, but I think we could also see some like get vaulted and the new ones rotate in. There have been a lot of leaked augments that will be coming to the game in the future. But overall, I think the system is interesting, and I'm excited to see where it goes. Let me know how you would rank them down in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. I hope this was, informative or helpful.